this book is so good. Oh my goodness. Welcome everybody to 6th grade ELA. I'm Miss Kelly, and as you can see, I'm reading a riveting book. It is called Hatchet by Gary Paulson. Some of you guys may have read it before. You may have even heard of the story. It is so good. It's about this boy who's taking a trip to go see his father in the Canadian woods. And then there's this accident and tragedy strikes, and he's got to survive on his own. He has to know what he's made of. He has to have the will to survive. You have the will to survive? You have to have that if you're going to make it. And I tell you, this is such a good story that talks about survival. And we're going to use that today to talk about our lesson. We're going to be in guidebooks with Hatchet, lesson number 1. And let's begin. So today we're going to, well, at the end of it, as you know, that there are multiple lessons that we will be teaching on. But right now I'm just doing one general one. So at the end of it, you guys will be able to write an essay, which you should be able to do, to evaluate Bryan's approach and explain if Hatchet could be used as a survival guide. There's so many good things in here about what he does to make fire, how he has to, create opportunities to get food and just live. And so, there are some really good tools in here that could be used for that. And then also, too, you're going to conduct a presentation explaining a successful survival character trait. What is a good trait of someone who is going to survive something tragic? What would they have to have? I definitely would have to say the mindset and the will to survive. What do you think? I think so too. All right, and then we're going to read, discuss, and write about text. All right, so we talked about that already. All right, so today we're going to read some excerpts from chapter 1 out this book. I'm going to read it aloud, and we're going to use annotations. As you guys can see, my book has sticky notes. Annotations, that is one of my favorite words in the world. Annotations. Annotations make it easy for you to digest information, pull out important pieces of the text, and then use it to write or do other things with. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today as well. So let's go back to this story. Bryan Robson. Oh my goodness. I tell you, he just seemed like a typical teenage boy. He was dealing with a situation where his parents were separated or divorced, I should say. His father lived in Canada, and he was getting on a plane to just go visit him. Should have been just a simple story, but it was anything but. Like I said, he's faced with so many obstacles and challenges, and there are even some points in the book where he feels like giving up, but he doesn't. He does not give up. And that's what I really love about this story and about the character of Bryan Robson. So I'm going to read a little bit. Let's see. First of all, here's a picture of a hatchet. A hatchet is just a really small axe, a really small miniature axe. So let's start with this first question. What is a hatchet used for? Why would somebody even have a little miniature small axe? What would they use it for? Maybe to cut down bushes, to remove debris maybe? It's a thought. What does a hatchet do? Where it's really sharp, so it definitely cuts, it severs things. And then why would someone need a hatchet? Well, interestingly enough, Bryan's mom gives him the hatchet as a gift on their way to the airport when he gets ready to get on the plane. And him and his mom are having a little, problem communicating. And so she gives him this as a way of letting her know that she cares about him. She's thinking about him while he's away. And he just, attaches it to his clothing or whatever and goes about his way. He has no idea how significant this one little gift is going to be in his life. Has anybody ever given you something that seemed insignificant at first, and as time went on, you realized it was a lifesaver? It was something that was a game changer in your life? Think about that for a moment. I know I've had many opportunities of people in my life that have done that. And so you never know when a little small gift is going to change your life. All right, let's keep moving. All right, so it says listen and read along, or just listen, as I read the beginning of chapter 1 in Hatchet by Gary Paulson. And I'm just going to kind of skip around. It says, Bryan Robson stared out of the window of the small plane at the endless green northern wilderness below. It was a small plane, a Cessna 406, a bush plane. And the engine was so loud, so roaring and consuming that it ruined any chance of conversation. Not that he had much to say. He was 13 and the only passenger on the plane with a pilot named, what is it? Jim or Jake or something, who was in the mid 40s and had been silent as he worked to prepare for takeoff. So that kind of sets the tone. You can see it in your mind that he's, on this plane, this engine is loud, and he's not having very much conversation with the pilot, right? How old was he? 13. So, all right, very good information. Let me skip around. Let me move on to the next page. And so where I'm going to begin, it says, now Bryan sat looking out the window with the roar thundering through his ears and tried to catalog what had led up to his taking this flight. Keyword, catalog. He's thinking about multiple things. He's tagging in his mind multiple events that led him to where he is now. It says the thinking started. There's that word again, thinking. Always it started with a single word, divorce. Let's pause. And I have my sticky note there too, divorce. So again, this character is on this plane and he's thinking. And instead of being excited about seeing his father and thinking about all the stuff they're going to do, or even being excited about the plane ride, he's thinking and cataloging events and thinking about divorce. What does that tell you about him? What is his mindset? Does it even feel like this is a jovial trip? Probably not. He's heavily thinking about a divorce. A divorce would imply his parents. Maybe they were together and then something happened and they're divorcing, and it weighed heavy on him. And I know we go through things in life that weigh heavy on us. And as you can see, this character was really thinking about a lot of that stuff. And so the author wants to really get you ready to understand how this character processes information, how he moves about, how he thinks. Even though you're not there, the author is so good, he gives you such vivid imagery where you can almost imagine that you're right there with him on that plane with that roaring oars, thinking about the divorce. All right. So, as I read, and I'm going to continue to read, I want you to listen as I share my thinking about what we have read, and then I want you guys to write with annotations with me. And if you happen to have a notebook like this, I keep my handy journal with me everywhere I go. If you want to take notes and write as we go along, feel free to do so, because taking notes and making annotations, my favorite word, will help you compose your narratives, your summaries, and any writing that you have to do. All right, so I'm going to keep reading a little bit, do a little more reading. So, on page 4 it says, Bryan eases off, relaxes his grip. The burning in his eyes was forgotten momentarily as the vibration of the plane came through the wheel and the pedals. It seemed almost alive. See? The pilot let go of his wheel, raised his hands in the air, and took his feet off the pedals to show Bryan he was actually flying the plane along. Simple. Now turn the wheel a little to the right and push on the right rudder pedal, a small amount. Bryan turned the wheel slightly and the plane immediately banked to the right. And when he pressed on the right rudder pedal, the nose slid across the horizon to the right. He left off on the pressure and straightened the wheel, and the plane righted itself. Now you turn, or now you can turn. Bring her back to the left a little. Bryan turned the wheel left, pushed on the left pedal, and the plane came back around. It's easy, he smiled. At least this part. So as we can see, the pilot and Bryan are having a little interaction. The pilot is allowing Bryan to fly the plane, to ease up a little bit, to have a little fun on this journey. Says the pilot nodded. All of the flying is easy. Just takes learning like everything else. He took the controls back, then reached up and rubbed his left shoulder. Aches and pains must be getting old. Bryan let go of the controls and moved his feet away from the pedals as the pilot put his hands on the wheel. Thank you. But the pilot had put his headset back on, and the gratitude was lost in the engine noise, and the things went back to Bryan looking out the window at the ocean of trees and lakes. The burning eyes did not come back, but memories did, came flooding in. The words, always the words, divorce, the secrets, fights, split. author is really trying to help you understand that although this character is on a plane, he's engaging in a little back and forth with the pilot. When he has a silent moment, he goes back to those thoughts, those words, those powerful words. Divorce, the secret. What is the secret? What is there a secret about? Oh my goodness. Fights. Who was fighting? Was his parents fighting? Is that why they're getting divorced? Split. Has to be about his parents. Everything has to be about his parents, right? But what is the secret? If they're getting a divorce, what is the secret? In order to find that out, you have to keep reading Hatchet. All right, so what do you notice about Bryan's words, actions, and thoughts so far? Take a moment and think about what I've read. What do you notice? Well, we notice he doesn't talk very much, right? A lot of his words are internal. He's not like extroverted with his words. He thinks deeply. What else? He's thinking a lot about his parents. Yeah, this whole situation has consumed his thoughts. And then we were reading a little bit about his eyes, about, well, I didn't read that part, but he had been kind of misty-eyed, maybe crying a little bit. So he was deeply hurt about this situation with his parents. So we know that he feels very deeply about, what's going on with his parents, which, anyone in his situation would. Okay, any other thoughts about Bryan? What about fearless? Would you be willing to get on a plane by yourself? I don't know if I would. And then notice what it said. He was looking out the window and he could see lakes and trees. He's flying over woods. Not cities. He's not seeing houses. He's seeing woods. He's in the middle of nowhere. Could you do that? Have you ever been on a plane ride? I have. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it's a little scary. All right, let's keep moving. What could the hatchet symbolize? Ooh, what could it symbolize? We know what it's used for, right? It's a small axe. But what does it symbolize? Again, we know he's going through all this internal frustration and his heartache and his hurt. How could the hatchet help him with that? Does it symbolize something? Maybe a release? Maybe a freedom? The author definitely has a purpose in using that title and that instrument in this text. All right, so what could the hatchet symbolize in text? What do you think it could symbolize? I gave out some ideas. What do you think? What could it symbolize? Okay, very good, very good. Again, in order to determine that, you would have to go back and think about what the author has said about the character and the use of the hatchet. All right, so on your own, if you happen to have this, you can continue reading chapter 1 and getting some more information about it, and because it's a really good read. But we're going to continue on with our lesson. All right, so we're going to work on summarizing chapter 1. Again, I didn't read the whole chapter. I just kind of skipped around a little bit, but I'm going to pull up a summary, and we're going to talk about summarizing it. What is a summary? Summarizing. What is that? Who knows? Short version. That's right. I always tell my students, if you have not seen a video called 12 Powerful Words, please check it out. Sometime within your day-to-day, if you haven't heard of it, listen to it. It talks about the 12 powerful words that you can use whenever you're doing anything in terms of learning. One of those words is summarize, and summarize is the short version. That means it takes something out of this novel and condense it into a very small amount of words. All right, and so now let's pull up the summary. Let's look at chapter 1. This will be a handout. If you were in class, I would have given you a copy of this particular handout so you could write your responses here. Now, for 6th graders, we need complex sentences. What is a complex sentence? It should have more than 3 words. It should have subordinated conjunctions. I want to see some appositives. I want to see some complex writing. I want you to really think about what you're going to say and what you're going to do. You guys know what that is, right? Give me a thumbs up. Yes, you know what that is. All right. So again, here's some questions for chapter 1. What you would do is read the questions, think about it, and then formulate your response. So let's look at the questions. The first one says, think about the function of the hatchet. We already talked about that a little bit. What is a hatchet used for? We said that a hatchet, which is a sharp object, can be used for removing debris and chopping things up. All right, it says, what does a hatchet do? Again, it's kind of like redundant. It's a weapon, or well, it could be used as a weapon, but it's also a tool. So the hatchet is a tool given by his mom to Bryan that he can use as a tool in the wilderness. All right, why would someone need a hatchet? That's a good question. Now, if they're going to be in the woods or something like that, they probably would need it to remove debris, to chop down different vines or different things like that. So if someone's out in the outdoors, they would need a hatchet. You wouldn't need a hatchet if you're indoors, right? No, definitely if you were outdoors. All right, so we talked a little bit also about what the hatchet symbolized, possibly freedom. So I could say in my response, the hatchet, comma, a gift to Bryan from his mom, comma, symbolizes freedom. That's an example of a sentence that has more than 3 words, has an appositive in it, and it's somewhat complex. And that's what we want you guys to do. Just give us some complex sentences. All right, what adjective would you choose to describe Bryan? What adjective? So I would say the adjective I would choose to describe Bryan, comma, the main character of the story, comma, would be introverted. I choose the word introverted because he doesn't do a lot of talking. He does a lot of internal thinking, and he does a lot of internal processing. So I would consider him introverted. All right, so let's move on. It's where it says why and use evidence from the story to support the adjective. And so this is where you could go and pull up something from your annotations, your sticky notes, something that you may have written, and it makes it so easy because then you're not going back saying, oh my God, where did I see that? What page was that? Oh my goodness, I don't even remember. But if you annotate as you read, make little notes, note the page number and the information, then all you have to do is pull it off and then write it or type it up in whatever summary you're doing. It makes life so much easier. Everybody got it? Very good. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get ready to conclude. Let's go back to the main page. All right, so we did summarize that. We referred to our annotations. We talked about that. All right, so in this lesson, you learned about the main character, Bryan. If you don't have this book, go get it. It is a riveting read. It will keep you spellbound. Just when you think it's getting slow, it'll pick back up. It's a really good story about overcoming and surviving. We will survive. This is a good start. Thank you for being with me today. I've enjoyed every moment. Until next time, have a great day.